So, quite a bit has happened in the past few days when it comes to the live streaming community. Twitch announced in a blog post earlier this week their new Safety Advisory Council, complete with 8 individuals whose job it is to, quote, support the growth of our community moving forward, end quote. Although this was being somewhat mocked for how strange the idea of having a Safety Advisory Council was, not many people had that big of an issue with it. This was until we were introduced to Steph, otherwise known as FerociouslySteph, a Twitch streamer with over 18,000 followers. Steph is a male-to-female transgender streamer who has been a competitive Heroes of the Storm player since 2016. One issue that Steph has with competitive video games, however, is the ability to use voice chat. Steph believes that in-game voice chat can give certain unmarginalized groups of people a competitive advantage in said video games.
The only way to have a level playing field at the highest level of play is to have is to not have voice chat, to not have people give up their linguistic profiles. I mean, and maybe you think, if you are a competitive gamer, which a lot of people have been like, Steph, you clearly know nothing about competitive play. Well, competition, by the way, y'all, competition requires you to get every advantage possible. To become the top 0.01% in any video game, you have to squeeze every amount of advantage you can possibly get. Voice chat is unfair. Period.
Now, before you go write a mean tweet or comment something absurd, let's try to understand where she's coming from here with a level head. Although you may not agree with someone on a certain topic, I believe they're entitled to their own opinion, and we should be courteous enough to hear them out. Something might sound absurd, but let's try to understand their viewpoint before we start casting stones. I'm going to read the reasonings Steph gives in a Twitter thread she wrote back in 2018. From there, we can try to make sense of it all. It's that time again. We need to talk about why adding voice chat to your game is anti-inclusivity, how it hurts your marginalized and female player base, especially within competitive play. I'm going to break it down as concisely and clearly as I can. Let's go. Continue. The logic. Number 1. Voice chat is a competitive advantage. Number 2. Muting someone is a competitive disadvantage. Number 3. People who are harassed are likely and encouraged to mute their harassers. This is also the only way to stop the harassment, as leaving the game incurs penalties. Therefore, people who are harassed must give up a competitive advantage in order to no longer subject themselves to abuse. Women and minorities should not be forced to choose between a competitive advantage or freedom from harassment. If you need a little more help understanding this, I'll try and draw it out for you. This is Steph's argument as to why voice chat should be taken out of competitive games. Say you're playing a match of a game, any game. 5 people on Team A, 5 people on Team B. Let's pretend, for the sake of the argument, that none of the players on either team know each other and none of them are queued with each other. For all 5 players on Team A, they happen to be cis white men. On Team B, however, only 4 of the players are cis white men, while 1 is a cis white woman. Steph is arguing that in this made-up scenario, Team A is going to have a competitive advantage over Team B because the players on Team B will be more likely to harass the girl, thus being less coordinated over Team A, who are more likely to work together. Even if no harassment happens at all on Team B to the girl, Steph still believes that there being a higher probability that she could be harassed, disabling voice chat entirely to completely get rid of the chance is a better option than having voice chat at all. How true is this, though? Well, let's take a look at some sides of the argument to see what we can find. First, we have Steph. Steph is a transgender, which most would agree is a pretty marginalized group of people. Even in today's age of acceptance, transgenders will still receive quite a bit of hate, both on and offline. We should note, however, that the offline hate normally comes from how a person looks or acts, rather than what it has to do with their voice. This is where the playing field changes in video games with voice communication. Since nobody knows what you look like in an online game, Your voice is going to be the only physically defining characteristic of you. Steph believes that the more male sounding your voice is, the less you'll get harassed, and the better advantage you have of winning. Now, Steph, I'm assuming, is still in the process of transitioning from male to female because her voice currently still sounds pretty masculine. There are surgeries one can go through in order to change how your voice sounds, but as it stands right now, Steph's voice sounds more male than female. We can then infer that she most likely is not directly receiving as much hate or harassment through voice chat compared to someone with a higher pitched voice or someone with a non-Western accent. I'm not trying to discredit if she's potentially taken harassment due to her voice, but what I am saying is that she most likely witnesses harassment rather than experiences it, which is a key difference. Again, this is just my assumption here. I don't know Steph, and I'm not a member of the transgender community, so I could be wrong, but I'm an outsider looking at her argument, an argument that's trying to persuade the general population. This is probably how most people are thinking of it. Now let's take a look at my personal experience. I'm the type of profile Steph believes has the best competitive advantage in any video game. I'm a cis, straight, white male. Let's limit this to my experience solely with Counter-Strike Global Offensive, a game in which I have over 2,500 hours in. I have seen firsthand the harassment certain people go through in a game. And in this case, Steph is right. It usually isn't the white males' voices who are being harassed. Like I said, it's the people with higher pitched / female voices or people with non-Western accents that are the ones I have seen being harassed for their voice rather than white men. I won't say it happens every game I play, but it does happen often. However, this isn't to say that I nor other white males haven't received harassment before. I've been called just about every insult available in the English lexicon within a Face It pug, and I have witnessed other white males harassing other white males. It isn't due to their voice though, it's mostly due to how they play. More often than not, there is someone harassing someone else in voice comms within a game of Counter-Strike. The argument, what's worse, being harassed for your voice or how you play, is a whole nother rat hole we don't have to go down. But from my impression that Steph has given, it seems as though she thinks no white males receive harassment, when quite the contrary is indeed true. Almost everyone in-game receives harassment. Now, these are just two anecdotal snippets from two very different lives. I'm sure everyone has had a different experience regarding online gaming. Regardless of who you are or how you play, if someone wants to harass you, they will find something to harass you for. No one is immune to online harassment, this is just a plain fact. But here's the issue. Instead of removing voice communication, why wouldn't Steph fight for online minorities to speak up and call out harassment, rather than advocate for the removal of an essential tool in competitive play? There's no form of communication better than the human voice. That's why we as Homo sapiens have survived for so long. Because we could communicate with others and pass down knowledge while our primate cousins could not. Removing voice chat in replacement for a pinging or callout system would just take away the competitive aspect of the game entirely. Competitive teamwork comes down to communication, and without that tool, it's only going to divide people further. Steph believes that linguistic profiles of certain people is going to incite harassment upon them. Although certain types of people may be harassed more for how they sound, taking away voice chat is not the solution. What Steph is advocating for here is the removal of the playing field entirely instead of evening it out. Instead of facing the problem and addressing to try and fix it, Steph wants to sweep it under the rug. No one is going to argue that voice chat harassment isn't a problem, but this is not the correct way to solve it. Steph states that in a competitive game where you want to garner every advantage possible, and voice chat is one of them, there are several others as well. Ping, computers, equipment, teammates, information, etc. Do we stop playing if the other team's internet is better than ours? Do we forfeit because one of our monitors isn't 144 Hz? Do we cancel a match if we didn't get enough practice time? These are essentially the other equivalents of phasing out competitive factors. Another issue with this situation is that we are looking at this from an entirely westernized view. Racism doesn't only exist in America. In fact, the United States is one of the most race-tolerant countries in the world. People in the Middle East and Asia are far more blatant with their racism towards other people. Online harassment isn't just a white or just an American thing. It exists all throughout the world. Steph has this tunnel vision type of look upon the whole situation that it only affects her and minorities within the United States, when it's probably worse elsewhere. Now, if Steph got her opinion out and left it at that, people wouldn't really care too much. Yeah, she wouldn't have received a whole lot of support from the vast majority, but what people hate more than anything is someone who thinks they're invulnerable. And like I said before, no one is invulnerable.
No, I'm just not cool with white supremacy, y'all. It's really not that. I think a lot of you gamers are actually white supremacists. Sorry. Just a fact of how I feel.
Claiming that a lot of gamers are white supremacists isn't something people really like.
Well, stay mad. Stay mad, haters. I'm right. I'm right.
Telling people to stay mad and that you're right is literally the worst thing you can do to try and win someone over.
Pow, pow, pow. Pow, 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 pow. Get him, mods. Roar on him. Chomp him. Go full lion. Just. Eat him. Eat him. Eat him whole. Da, 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 da. We're gonna eat you. Yeah, we're gonna ban you from my stream. Then you're never gonna come back unless you spend more time making a second account, but we'll ban that too. You better watch out, because I'm pretty cool, and you can't get rid of me. Twitch is endorsing me, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm just gonna dance to your sad tears. I'm just gonna drink your tears. Num 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 num, bum 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 bum. You better watch out.
Bragging that your mods will ban anyone with a different viewpoint, which is something completely opposite of what her description says, and bragging that Twitch has your back is the direct opposite of someone who wants to support the growth of the community moving forward. I do not believe FerociouslySteph is cut out for the position she is in. The way she and her friends have been handling the situation is very telling. It really seems like Twitch just wanted to check off the corporate diversity checkbox, rather than find people who genuinely care about the community. Funny how the person that brags about being the most accepting is the least inclusive one of them all.